Welcome along to the third part of our video tutorial series where we're learning how to create a capture game using Pygame Zero. In the first couple of videos we got as far as this, where we have our three elements brought in that are going to be falling from the sky. Got the backdrop and we've got our ship down the bottom, which is now working when we move left and right with the arrow keys. In this video I want to get the coin that we're going to be collecting falling from the sky. I want to be able to collect it, and I also want to be able to get some points when I collect that coin. Alright, so let's get started on that. First of all, we're going to go to the update function. We're going to go below the ship and we're going to write in a comment in capital letters again that says coin. Make it stand out a bit there. And the first thing we're going to be doing, another comment here, is moving the coin down the page. So my comment will say move the coin down the page. And what we're going to be doing is writing coin.y. Remember, the y-axis is the vertical axis, and that's the axis that the coin is going to be falling down on. So coin.y is going to equal coin.y plus 4. Okay, if we look at this picture again, we start at 0 up here on the y-axis, and it goes up to 600 at the very bottom. So if we add 4 to the y-axis, every time the frames are refreshed in our game, it just keeps falling down the page. Okay, so I guess we can give that a test and see if it's actually working. There we go. Okay, now he'll just fall off the screen there and just keep falling and falling and falling. Okay, it's not quite what we want in our game, so what we want it to do is actually go back up the top and start falling again. Before we do that though, think back to the last video. Is there a better way that we can write this? Coin.y equals coin.y plus 4. You might remember I told you about the ship and how we could shorten its movement code just there. We can do the same for the coin. So instead of writing coin.y equals coin.y plus 4, let's make it coin.y plus equals 4. Just to shorten that code a little bit. Okay, now from here we want to reset the coin at the top of the page once it hits the bottom. So I might put a comment in saying that. Reset the coin at the top of the page once it hits the bottom. Alright, and the way we do that is with an if statement. So if our coin.y, so if its position on the y-axis is greater than 600, which is the bottom of the page. So basically, if it hits the bottom of the page and goes any further, then what do we need to do? Well, we are going to move our coin back to the top of the page and get it starting in a random location again on the x-axis. So I'll do coin.x first. Coin.x is going to equal random.randint anywhere between 20 and 780 for the x-axis. And then we're going to do coin.y, which is the y-axis. I'm going to set it to 0, which is the very top of the page. Give that a play and we'll see what happens when the coin hits the bottom. There we go. So every time it hits the bottom of the page, it just resets itself back at the top in a random location and will continue falling down the page. So that looks good. Next thing I'm going to do is a collision with the ship. So when the coin actually collides with the ship, what do we want to happen? So I've got a bit going on here, so I'll write coin collision with ship. That can be my comment. So what happens when the coin collides with the ship? Again, it's going to be an if statement, and we're going to use a function that's built into Pygame Zero called collide rect. Let me show you how it's written. So if the coin dot collide rect, and then in brackets write the thing that we're going to be colliding with. So in this case it's going to be the ship. Okay, I'm not quite sure what collide rect stands for. I think it's like the rect stands for rectangle, and it's a little rectangle that is around this actor here, the ship. Okay, so if the coin collides with the shape around the ship, so the little rectangle shape that goes around the ship, what do we want to happen? Okay, so first of all, I wouldn't mind playing a sound to show that we've collected that coin. So if we go back to our treasure hunt folder and look in the sounds here, we've got a sound called collect. So that's the sound I want to play. So if coin.colliderect is with the ship, then we're going to do sounds.collect, that's the name of the sound file, and then .play, and open and close a set of brackets there to run that function. that will just play that collect sound, which is just a little beep to say we collected the coin. It's just a positive sound to show the user or the player they've done the right thing. After they've collected that coin, then we want the coin to go back to the top of the page and start falling down again, a bit like it's done over here. So we can almost do a copy and paste job here. These two. Coin.x equals random.randint and the coin.y equals 0. We can copy and paste that down here. That will just put our coin at the top of the page again after we collect it. Let's just test that and see what happens. Okay, you can hear the sound working, and each time that coin hits the ship, it goes straight to the top of the page to a random location. So that's working well. The next thing we need to do though is get a score board up here so we can actually get a score when we collect those coins. So what I'm going to have to do is go back up to the top section here where we started setting up all our actors. The last actor we set up was the bomb, so let's just go below that and write a comment that says set up game variables. So variables are, I guess, the quickest way to describe them is like a bucket that holds information, and that information can be updated throughout the game. So let's create a variable or a bucket as such called score. And we're going to set it to 0. So when the game starts, our score is going to be set to 0. But that score can be updated throughout the game. Alright, so as we collect coins, that score is going to go up, and the information inside that score bucket will be updated. So let's head back down to where we collect the coin. So when the coin collides with the ship, what we can do now is add a score. So score will equal score plus 1. We get 1 point each time we collect a coin. Okay, now if we were to run that, we would get an error. Let me show you why. Okay, I'll have to collect the coin first just so you can see this error. Okay, so it comes up saying local variable score is referenced before assignment. That sounds a bit confusing, but basically this variable called score cannot be updated inside of this function. Okay, we've defined it or made this variable outside of the update function, which means we can't update it inside the update function. The way we get around that is create or make it a global variable, which means we can update it inside this update function. So inside the update function at the top of it, you just need to write the word global and make this score global. So let's write global score. And that means now that we can update our score each time we collect the coin. So let's give it another run. And we shouldn't get an error message now when we collect the coin. Only issue is we can't actually see a scoreboard to know what our score is. So here comes the next step. We need to go all the way to the bottom now in the draw section. In the draw section is where we actually draw the scoreboard. So I'm going to go below everything I've done so far. And I'm going to write screen.draw.text. That's how we write text on the screen. We use this function here. So screen.draw.text. And in brackets and quotation marks, write score with a colon and a space and close the quotation marks off. Now, after that, we're going to put a plus sign and we're going to write str and then in brackets score. I'll just close the brackets there for a sec. Now that's a little bit confusing, but what we're doing is we're just writing the word score on the screen, and then we're going to put the variable score. So remember this one that was equal to 0 before? That's going to appear on the screen. The reason I put str in front of it is I'm converting that score from a number, or an integer as it's known in this game. So we're converting it from an integer into a string, which is just a series of characters. It could be letters or numbers. Okay, it's a little bit confusing, I guess, for now, without me going into any detail. Just trust me, it's going to work. If we don't do that string score, then we might get a bit of an error message. So convert that score into a string, so just a series of either letters or numbers, and the computer will be happy. Now once we've got that written in, we need to tell it the coordinates that we want this score to be positioned. So still inside the brackets there, we're going to put a comma, and for the x coordinate I'm just going to maybe bring it across 15, and for the y coordinate I'll bring it across 10. After that, we're going to put a comma, and we're going to change the color of our text. Now, this is where another tricky bit comes into play. I'm going to have to open my internet up here, and I'm going to type in RGB color picker. Some of you might be familiar with this sort of stuff, but some of you might not. We need to actually define or tell the computer what color we want to use using this RGB code down here. Okay, RGB stands for red, green, and blue, and what it does is mixes those three colors together to create all these different colors. Okay, the numbers just refer to how much of each color we're mixing together to create a particular color. So I actually want the color white. So I'm going to go way up here in the top left-hand corner, and I can see 255, 255, and 255 are the three numbers I need to create white. So what I'm going to do is next to the word color here, which is spelt the American way, I'm going to open some brackets and write 255, 255, 255. And that is the color white. So that means the writing that I'm going to have for this scoreboard, it's going to be white. I will then put another comma. Two more things to add in. The font name is the next one. So font name equals, and then in quotation marks, jump over to your treasure hunt folder and look in the fonts folder. Public Pixel. That's the name of the font we're going to be using. So I'm going to write that in. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here so you can see everything I'm writing. So font name is Public Pixel. That's just like a gamey looking font. And the last thing we're going to do is put in the font size. So font size is the final thing we're going to put in, and that's going to be equal to, and I'm going to put 15, and I'm going to close the set of brackets off. So that is quite a complex line of code, just to get a bit of text on the screen. So we use screen.draw.text to write text on the screen. This is the text we're writing on the screen, score. And next to that, we're going to put the variable score. So whatever our score is at that point in time, that's what it's going to be just there. And it will just update as our game goes on. These are the coordinates that we're going to position our score. X-axis is going to be 15 across, so that just pushes a little bit to the right. And then 10 is just a little bit down from the top of the page on the Y-axis. Our color is white. Our font name is Public Pixel, and the font size, how big the text is 15. Let's give that a run and we'll see if I got that right. Of course there's an error. It says color is not defined. I forgot the equals sign, that's why. So make sure you write color equals and then put in brackets those numbers. Give that another run. And you can see in the top left there we've now got our scoreboard. Let's see if it actually adds up our score. Yep, so that seems to be working well. Okay, now just before we go any further, one thing I like to do in my games is make this section here where I've got the color a little less complicated. Instead of putting the numbers down here, I like to put them at the top of the page. So up here, usually around, probably after my game screen dimensions, I put a comment in that says colors used in game. Okay, and we're only going to be using the white for now, so I'm going to make a variable called white, and I'm going to set that equal to those three numbers, 255, 255, 255. So those values are now stored inside of this variable called white. Now down the bottom, where I've got color equals, and those, I don't have to write those numbers anymore, I can just use white. And that should still do the same thing as what we just did, so let's give it a test run. Yep, there we go. Still works fine, the color's white. We're all good. Okay, so that has got our coin working. We've got a scoreboard now that is going up. One other thing I do want to add while I remember is I want to make the game get harder as it goes on. So this coin that always falls down the page at speed 4, I want that to get quicker over time. So I guess the higher the score, the faster I want that coin to fall down the page. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add to this line here. So where we've got coin.y plus equals 4, I want you to put a plus score divided by 5. And if you do the maths, you will work out that that will slowly get faster and faster as the game progresses. So if you do test your game out, start collecting some coins, and it usually takes probably about 10 coins before you start to notice that it is becoming quite harder to collect the coins because it is moving quicker. So I'm nearly at 10 now, and I can definitely start to see this coin falling faster out of the sky, so it is quite tricky. Hopefully you can start to see that on yours as well. It is falling quite quick, so I'll just give it a rest there. I think anything over 20 will start to become quite difficult. Anyway, that's all I'm going to show you in this video tutorial, now that we've got the score going. In the next one, I'm going to get the bad guys falling down from the top. So I'm going to get that skull working and the bomb working. Alright, so I will see you in the next video tutorial.